Welcome to the October 2025 episode of Hunt Camp Mail. We're currently right in the middle of hunting season for most people, both for big game and for bird hunting. It's also a great time of year to get out there and throw some flies, both in saltwater and in freshwater. Hopefully, everyone is having safe and enjoyable experiences out in the field this year. My hunting rifle tier list video that I released this month just blew up. But unfortunately, I didn't really make a dime off of that video because YouTube's new AI moderator demonetized that video for some unknown reason, and I had to make a claim and wait for an actual human being to review my claim. And I did win my appeal and got that video remonetized, but by then, that video already had almost 140,000 views, so I totally lost out on the revenue for that video. But I mean, what are you going to do? It's YouTube's house, and I have to play their game. That video also resulted in my third ever cease and desist letter, which found its way into my trash bin. The firearm and ammo industry is so bad right now that rather than fixing their quality issues when the consumer brings it to their attention, they want to threaten people for giving negative reviews of their products. The industry has never ever been as bad as it is right now. So before I get to rambling on too long, let's get to this month's mail. And our first letter for October is from George in Wyoming. George wrote, I just got back from a 24-day safari in Mozambique. Wow, that's a full bag safari right there. I took my 10x30 Swarovski binoculars, but due to the Mickey Mouse carry strap they have, I sometimes did not wear them as they were in the way. I saw your video where you had the Rick Young BINO harness. It looks like just what I need, so I have one coming. My question is, how do you connect them to your Swarovskis? They have that little twist pin connector, and it looked like on the video that you connected to a circle ring. Would you please send me a picture of your setup and tell me what you did to make it work? I always enjoy your videos. If it weren't for you, I would have never got a .416 Remington. I absolutely love it, and it's my favorite rifle. And George, on his 24-day safari, shot a 56-pound elephant, a 43-inch buffalo, and a 61-inch kudu. And here's some pics of some of George's animals. Those are some fantastic trophies there, George, and I'm glad that I helped you realize the benefits of the .416 Rem Mag as the master of the one-gun safari. For a hunt like yours, or maybe my last hunt in Africa, that includes everything from elephant to plains game, the .416 Rem Mag, or all the .416s for that matter, are just absolutely perfect. But I have to say this, I don't mean it as a criticism, but on your buffalo, I really think that your outfitter severely overboiled the skull. So make sure that you pick a really good taxidermist that has a lot of experience rebuilding buffalo bosses. There's some out there. You know, a guy that isn't experienced at doing this will not produce a good mount for you when your skull is overboiled in camp and it kind of melts away or ruins a lot of boss material on it. On your question about the Swarovski binocular adapters, I used the Rick Young Swarovski hub adapter. And the same guy that makes the harness you ordered also makes the Swarovski adapter that you need for it. You know, I think you're really going to like the Rick Young harness for your binoculars in the really thick free range areas that you hunted. But I also think that you discovered the truth about wearing binoculars in areas of Africa like that. Like I stated in my Africa hunting loadout video that I posted, sometimes it's best to not carry binoculars at all when you're hunting in the really thick stuff in Africa. And our next letter is from Igor. And I don't think Igor watches a lot of Hunt Camp Mail because he didn't mention where he was from. Igor wrote, "Hello, Desert Dog. I've been watching your videos for many years, and I have a question regarding the turkey shotgun video from 3 years back. You were using a red dot on your BERETTA A400. I was wondering if the red dot base Picatinny allows you to see the shotgun rib properly after the red dot is dismounted and aim as normal." I'm actually using the BERETTA brand rail that I got off the BERETTA website, and you can actually see through it and line up both beads on the shotgun. You can see it does have a recess in the middle, so you can look down and still see the beads. But honestly, I removed this rail before waterfowl season because it does mess with the natural sight picture when I point this gun at birds. So remember, when you're shooting at flying objects, you are not aiming your shotgun. You're pointing it. And I feel that having this rail mounted, even though I could see the beads, kind of gets in the way and obstructs my field of view while I'm bird hunting. And our next letter is from John in Australia. John wrote, "Hi, Desert Dog. Both Australians and Americans have to declare when they are carrying $10,000 or more when leaving their countries. Have you ever run into problems with customs, either US or abroad, when traveling with large amounts of cash?" It's a good question. And it's actually something maybe I didn't address in my Africa Q&A video. But I've honestly only traveled with more than $10,000 on me twice. And if you do travel with over $10,000 in cash, I would say to absolutely declare it. No, you can't split the money up with your wife or among family members. That's illegal. It's clearly stated in the rules. And look at it this way. If you get caught in a lie about carrying more than $10,000 on you, they will confiscate all of your money and probably keep it. So it's just not worth the lie. Just declare it if you carry that much. But personally, I do everything I can to travel with less than $10,000 on me, and you should too. And our next letter for the month of October is from Peter. Peter wrote, "Desert Dog, I just got back from a couple weeks in Greece with my son. I tried the Blue Lizard sunscreen you recommended. The stuff is great. We were in intense Mediterranean sun almost every day, often for hours, and never even got the slightest burn." Well, thanks for the feedback on that, Peter. And yeah, I use Blue Lizard brand sunscreen when I'm wading in the saltwater flats out in, exposing my entire body for 8 hours straight at the equator. And I've never got a sunburn while wearing that stuff. It's really thick, as you probably know now, so it's a little bit harder to apply. But once it's on you, you have way better protection than any brand that you're going to buy at the supermarket. And our next letter is from Mark in Fort Gaines, Georgia. Mark wrote, "I purchased a CVA Scout 35 Whelen like yours, and it fits in the front box of my ATV, which I love. You mentioned the excellent accuracy in your recent video. Any chance you can share the bullet and powder? I certainly don't ever ask for charge weight." That's a good question, and thank you for not asking for the charge weight because, as you know, if you watch my channel for as long as you have, I don't give that information out. But I live in California, so I have to shoot non-toxic in my state. So I'm currently loading the 203 grain stone hammer from Hammer Bullets using Varget, Nosler brass, and Federal 210 primers. And this load just shoots absolutely lights out. And my CVA single shot 35 Whelen is basically a truck gun for me, and it wears a cheap Trijicon scope on it that can handle the abuse. You mentioned that your rifle is going to be riding around in an ATV while you hunt, so make sure that you have a very durable scope like a Night Force SHV or a Trijicon scope, because your typical Leupold or Vortex scope isn't going to hold zero, living its life in the front of your ATV. And our next letter is from Hagen in Germany. Hagen wrote, Ron Spomer recently published a video where he pondered the question of which pre-1950 cartridge he would choose for each game species he hunts. I thought this was a little bit easy for you since you're a fan of the classics, so I thought I'd limit it to pre-1930 factory cartridges, no wildcats. Additional criteria: modern bullets allowed, only pre-1930 rifle designs, but with modern materials, and scopes are allowed. What are your picks? Hagen always has interesting questions like this, so I decided to put it on Hunt Camp Mail. I'll start by selecting my pre-1930s rifle first. I know a lot of you are already thinking in your head what I'm going to choose. You think I'll go with a Winchester Model 54 or maybe an original Oberndorf Mauser or a Springfield or a Rigby. But I'll assume that I have to use the rifle as is. And because of that, I think I would go with a Griffin and Howe rifle built on, or all of them Griffin and Howe rifles built on Mauser actions. The pre-1930 Griffin and Howes allowed for the easy mounting of a scope, and you said I can use a scope. Griffin and Howe would also chamber a rifle in whatever cartridges were available at the time. I also have to pick commercially available ammunition because you said I can't pick any wildcats. All of the good varmint cartridges weren't commercially available until after the 1930s, so you kind of eliminated that for me. So my first cartridge would be the 270 Winchester, which would be my round for varmints, pronghorn, and deer. My second cartridge would be the venerable and smooth shooting and feeding 300 Holland & Holland Magnum. And I'd use the 300 H&H for animals like elk, moose, bears, bison, and African plains game. My third cartridge would be the great 416 Rigby. And I'd use that for Cape buffalo, hippo, and elephants, and maybe even brown bears. Now, if I only got to pick two pre-1930 cartridges, it'd probably be the 30-06 and the 416. And our next letter is from Rex in Townsend, Montana. Rex wrote, I appreciate the value and continued effort you provide with your videos. I just wanted to quickly share my most recent rifle build that yours inspired me to have done. I've always wanted to have a Winchester Model 70 and 300 H&H, but as you know, buying one of them in spectacular condition comes at a hefty price. This rifle started as a 7mm I picked up at my local gun shop for $600. I then took the rifle to my gunsmith, Sean Williams of Northridge Rifles in Helena, Montana, to have a 26-inch twist Brux barrel installed on the action after he finished the blueprinting of the action. Sean then Cerakoted the action to appear somewhat like dull blued finish. He proceeded to full-length bed the barreled action into a Macmillan Pre-64 stock with a McWoody finish. I received the rifle Monday and mounted up a Night Force NXS 2.5 to 10 by 32 millimeter scope and worn low rings and bases. I installed a Timney trigger set at 2 pounds that breaks like glass, as well as a PTG stainless bottom metal. I just wanted to say Thank you for the great information you put out, and it truly did help me find what I've always wanted to build in this project. Thank you for the great letter, Rex. And that rifle is just an absolutely beautiful rifle, chambered in a classic cartridge that I love. And I think that you went the correct route for achieving the rifle of your dreams. And I wish more people would realize that a great gunsmith working off of a decent used action is going to build a better rifle than anything that you're going to buy on the commercial market. So congratulations on an excellent rifle. And our next letter is from Joshua in Alaska. Joshua wrote, "Hello, Desert Dog. I don't believe I've ever heard you mention or reference any hunting trips you've taken to Alaska, although it would seem you've taken several trips to Africa. Is hunting here in Alaska simply something you are not interested in? Thanks for the quality content." Well, Joshua, I've hunted several times in Alaska. Deer, caribou, bear, and a very, very expensive and unsuccessful moose hunt. I also have family in Alaska, and we go there once or twice a year. I really love fly fishing in remote Alaska, but I stay away from the huge crowds and the combat fishing anywhere where there's vehicle access in Alaska. It's kind of a shit show when the salmon run. Honestly, I think Alaska is an overrated hunting destination. I know you don't like hearing that, but I really think it kind of is. I honestly think that the success rate, the availability, and the cost, and the variety of hunting opportunities is much better in the lower 48. And our next letter is from Jack in Canada. Jack wrote, "As if it wasn't already enough that we are constantly bombarded on social media, internet forums, and other publications with questionable advice from fake experts, and, as you would call them, mall ninjas and FUDs, we often run into conflicting advice even from known experts or people we consider to be knowledgeable on subjects. It must be confusing for somebody who just started hunting or shooting to know which is the right advice. Maybe you can make an episode on scope bases and installations. As you will see from the examples below, it can get very confusing." And Jack gave me a long list of videos where a lot of prominent people in the firearm industries give conflicting advice on something as simple as mounting a scope. But, as they say, there's more than one way to skin a cat. And people prefer to do things in different ways as long as they perceive that they're getting good results from it. The problem is that few people actually test their way against other ways to verify what works the best. Yes, there are influencers out there that give horrible advice and have hundreds of thousands of subscribers and huge social media empires, but it's up to you as a viewer to sift through the bullshit and kind of find the truth yourself. When seeking the truth, nobody can hold your hand and spoon feed it to you. You have to get multiple viewpoints on the subject, ask the right questions, kind of recognize people's biases and motives, and maybe even test their conclusions yourself. Don't, as I've told my viewers many times, don't even really blindly believe what I tell you. Research it for yourself. I always try to tell my kids when they were growing up, believe your eyes, not your ears. And that's why you usually see me physically demonstrating things to my viewers. And our next letter is from Nadir in Canada. Got two in a row from Canada. Nadir wrote, "As you may have heard, the Canadian Liberal Party has been pursuing a firearm ban that appears more politically motivated than evidence-based. I wanted to bring this to your attention as it illustrates how the ban impacts responsible firearm owners while doing nothing or little to reduce actual crime. Canada, Australia, and the UK are lost causes. Sorry to say that, but I personally feel that they're just complete lost causes at this point. You guys let the socialists and Marxists take control, and I don't think there's any turning back now. Your leaders are also not going to allow you to do provincial secession. That's just not going to occur. They're not going to let it happen. So there's really no recourse for you. The entire country of Canada is kind of like a giant version of California without the US Constitution to protect the citizens. And it's just on a downward leftist spiral where they double down on failed ideas and get rich while the people suffer. I personally would never live in Canada. And our next letter is from Peter in California. We went from one communist country to another. Peter wrote, another great video. I honestly don't know how you are able to consistently put out such high quality content. I shared this one with several people. It could save folks some real time in doing research. I really appreciate the totally unbiased assessments. I also suspect a lot of folks will be going to the Park West Arms website now. Well, they already are, I think. Park West Arms already contacted me and thanked me for the positive review I gave in that hunting rifle tier list video. I told them that as long as their quality standards and design elements stay top tier, that I'll continue to give them praise. But if quality or customer service start consistently struggling, I'll be the first one to tell my viewers about it. That's a fact. I used to have a great relationship with LEUPOLD in the past, until their quality just took an absolute nosedive. And you'll just never see me giving fluff reviews on this channel for any products. Well, unless it's maxi pads. And our next letter is from Zach in Melbourne, Australia. Zach wrote, I want to start by thanking you for your great videos. They helped me in preparation for my first Africa hunt. The two guns I took with me were a 375 H&H Model 70 and a Mauser in 300 Win Mag. The ammo I took was a mistake. The Hornady Superformance is not the best for dense African bush, and on one occasion, it disintegrated on some very small brush and impacted my Blessbach with 2 holes. That's not good. Next year, I'm thinking a Model 70 and 30-06. What do you think? And here's some pictures of Zach's safari. Well, I'm glad my videos helped you prepare for your hunt, and looks like you had a good one. To your question here, why buy another rifle if what you have works and it seems to work well? But, if you want to buy a Model 70 and 30-06 just for the hell of it, do it because that's what you want. You could buy something because you want it, not because you need it. It's a habit I can't seem to break. On the Hornady ammunition thing, yeah, if I were you, I would stay away from whatever the hell you were shooting. Also realize that high velocity cartridges like your 300 Win Mag should not be shot through brush. That's a bad idea. But no bullet should split in half that easily and impact an animal in 2 different spots. I'd stay away from whatever Hornady ammo you were using. Our next letter is from Evan in Virginia. Evan wrote, Hey Desert Dog, first of all, You've got the best outdoor hunting channel on YouTube. I'm a huge fan. Thanks for all you do. I've got a quick question for you. If you could only have one pair of binoculars for hunting deer in the kind of country I hunt, what would it be? For context, I'm hunting southeastern Virginia. The terrain is a mix of hardwoods, pines, and cutovers with a lot of dense understory, patchy openings, and long logging lanes. Most of my glassing happens from tree stands or ground blinds, with the occasional sit on bigger fields, and a lot of it in low light conditions at dawn and dusk. Given that setting, moderate ranges, mixed cover, and tricky lighting, what BINO would you personally trust if you can only carry one? Well, without a doubt, in my opinion, the best glass that you can buy for the situation that you hunt in at any price point, high or low, is the Swarovski NL Pure binoculars. Last year, I was on a mission to buy the best of the best binoculars. And I went to all the stores around me. I also went to two of the largest hunting conventions in the world, the SCI and the DSC convention. And I looked through all of the binoculars on the market that we have access to. And the Swarovski NL Pure binoculars are just the best of the best, in my opinion, especially for those low light conditions. And our next letter is from Mark in San Diego, California. Mark wrote, "Loved your videos, Desert Dog. Your hunting rifle tier list video showed up in my feed, and I went to your channel and watched over a dozen of your videos. How are you not more popular? You know more shit than anyone else I watch on YouTube. I watched your last Zimbabwe hunt with great interest, and I'm determined to do something similar next summer. Everyone is telling me to go to South Africa, but you don't seem to like hunting there anymore. People say Zimbabwe isn't safe, and the lodges are better in South Africa. What do you say?" Well, I can assure you, Zimbabwe currently is a safer country than South Africa is. Also, I feel like the indigenous people of Zimbabwe are much nicer and more genuine people than what you're going to find in South Africa. So, and I also think as on a whole, Zimbabwe just has more culture. I also find that the pHs in Zimbabwe are just the best of the best. You're not going to find better pHs anywhere in the world than the ones that you will hunt with in Zimbabwe. These guys, it takes them at least 5 years to become a pH in Zimbabwe. They have to pass the hardest guiding exam in the world, work as an apprentice for years, and their final exam even takes 7 days, and it's only held once a year. From what I understand, last year, 50 people took the final hunting exam in Zimbabwe, and they all failed. It's that hard. So when you're hunting with a licensed professional hunter in Zimbabwe, he's going to be good. I also only do free range hunts nowadays, and 99% of the hunting in South Africa is high fenced hunting. I also don't like those package deals like you get in South Africa and Namibia. I want to earn my trophies in a truly wild place with no guarantees of success. But, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't hunt in South Africa. That's just my personal expectations of a hunt as they stand now, and they've evolved over time. If you have a disability, South Africa is going to be a much better place to hunt. If you're taking a large family to Africa, South Africa, once again, is going to be a much better choice, I think. If your wife just has to stay in first class accommodations, South Africa is going to be much better. If you want cheap hunts, South Africa is going to be better. If you want an easier hunt, once again, South Africa is going to be better. And our next letter is from Fishfud from Scandinavia. Fishfud wrote, "Bell is one of the most interesting elephant hunters. His shooting skills and training were exceptional, but the interesting part was his creativity and his ability to dodge charging animals and shoot them as they passed. It would be fun to participate in one of his hunts, but not necessarily safe. Well, we have to view the past always in historical context. What is considered unethical or possibly even detrimental to wildlife today just wasn't so 100 years ago. You can't hold our modern expectations or ethics against most hunters of the past. But what we also have to understand is that before portable cameras, the internet, and cell phones, most braggadocio hunters of the past highly embellished their stories, their kill totals, their shot success, and all their narrow escapes from death. There were no pictures, videos, or credible witnesses back then. Famous hunters were really fast and loose with the truth in those days, because there was just no way to verify their claims, and there still isn't. Embellished stories made them famous and sold millions of books, and that was the end goal. When a famous hunter tries to bullshit us today, it's easy to call them out and discredit them. It actually happens all the time these days. I think that writers, all the way up to the time of Capstick's time, could get away with whatever they wanted to claim, but not anymore. That's why the hunting stories that you hear today just aren't as interesting as the stories from the past. And our next letter is from Bill in Visalia, California. Bill wrote, I wish I found your channel earlier. I bought a Vortex scope last year for my 7mm 08, and my groups opened up double and my zero would shift. I removed it and put on an old Nikon scope, and the rifle went back to shooting great groups again. I found that I could flex the tube by pitching it with my fingers really hard. It sits on a shelf now because I don't even think it's right to sell such a scope. I replaced it with the LEUPOLD VX5, which worked great for a year. I checked the zero on my rifle the day before deer season opened, and it was fine. This year, I hunted deer out of my Polaris Ranger. On the last day, I spotted a 3x3 150 yards away, went prone using my bipod, and the shot went a foot over the buck's back. Back at home, I went to the range and the rifle was shooting all over the place, sometimes missing the target completely. I put my old Nikon scope back on, and the rifle was shooting 1-inch groups again. I wish I watched your videos earlier. I'm getting a Night Force SHV now. Well, that's a sad and unfortunately very common story these days, and I feel your pain. Leupold has just let me down too many times over the past few years. And I'm assuming that your rifle sat in a side-by-side while you drove around on rough dirt roads or trails hunting deer. And modern Leupold scopes just aren't made to handle that kind of abuse anymore. I feel sorry for the popular influencers out there that are forced to shill for companies like Leupold. I just couldn't do it. And our last letter is from Tom in Henderson, Nevada. Tom wrote, I loved your last Africa hunt video. It is the best Africa hunting video I've ever seen. I really loved the shot breakdown on the elephant, but what really caught my attention was that watch. Is that a Hamilton? If so, what strap did you put on it? I want to replicate that. And I have it right here for you, Tom. And yeah, you're right. It is a Hammy titanium automatic. And the strap is an Erica's original Marine Nationale strap. And by popular demand, I am going to make a video next month about hunting watches. So stay tuned for that. Well, that wraps up this month's edition of Hunt Camp Mail. Here's some memes for the month of October. I want to thank all of you for the great emails and for your participation in my channel. In an environment where almost all YouTube content is turning into AI slop, I'm doing my best to provide you with real information and opinions based on logic and critical thinking rather than, AI scripts. All of my content and my personal time is freely given to you. And all I ask for in return is that you hit that subscribe button so my channel remains kind of semi-relevant, at least, in the internet algorithms. I know this trip we're on won't last forever, so let's keep it going as long as we can, and your subscription helps with that. You can reach me with any questions or comments at desertdogoutdoors@gmail.com. Thank you for watching, and as always, good hunting.